Our Bible word is John 14, verses 16 to 17. And I will pray the Father, and he will give you another helper, that he may abide with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. So we are here, part of the farewell discourse of Jesus. So that runs from John 13 up to John 16. Of course, this is followed by what's known as Jesus' high priestly prayer in John chapter 17. But yeah, it's where Jesus prepares his disciples for the time that he will leave them. He will no longer be with them, but also that he will return to them in a sense. And specifically, John 14 is about the return and presence of Jesus. And if we look at John, we must also understand there's two things that are important here again. It's that there are two historical settings and levels of meaning, and also something that is known as realized eschatology. So if we look at those two historical settings and levels of meaning, it refers to the audience of Jesus. Jesus is both addressing the disciples in the 30s, and also is addressing the Johannine community of the 90s. That's the way the evangelist writes the gospel. Jesus, when he speaks to his disciples, at the same time, is also speaking to the community of believers for whom John is writing. So that's the two historical settings and levels of meaning. And it's also about realized eschatology, and it's about the return and presence of Jesus. It's in the sense of realized eschatology refers to the life of the future age, the blessings of the future age, the salvation, experience of the Spirit, all of that is already in a sense present here and now. So that's what we mean by realized eschatology. The salvation is not only a future thing, that experience of salvation, also fellowship with Jesus, can already be experienced in the present. And so that applies to the return and presence of Jesus, because he will return and be present through the resurrection, also through the Paraclete, that's the Holy Spirit, of course also the second coming. But this present and future, for John, it's collapsed into one. So that's why we speak of realized eschatology. Jesus has already returned, because he's returned through the resurrection, through the Paraclete or the Holy Spirit. In a sense, also that even that future or second coming of Jesus has been realized in a sense. This is the interesting thing about John's theology. There's no strict difference between salvation in the present and salvation in the future. John's theology, it brings it all together. It's like one and the same experience. So just remember that when you read John 14. Now, if we go to our immediate pericope, that is Jesus coming and presence through the Spirit. And that's specifically in chapter 14, verses 15 to 26. So Jesus will return through the resurrection, but he will also return through the Spirit. And the unique thing of John's theology is that John refers to the Spirit as the Paraclete. It means the helper or the advocate. It refers to an intercessory figure, someone who mediates for you. And we have three important Paraclete passages in John. It's in chapter 14, verses 16 to 17, and also verse 26, and also in chapter 15, verses 26 to 27, and also chapter 16, verses 7 to 11. And the main functions of the Paraclete is that the Paraclete will mediate Jesus' presence. Also, the Paraclete will be a revealer of truth. He will be a teacher and will testify of Jesus. And also, the Paraclete will be a prosecutor of the world. And there's lots of parallel between Jesus and the Paraclete. They do similar things. If you draw a comparison between them, it's both are given or sent by the Father. Both are with or in or by the disciples. Both are not received or known or seen by the world. Both teach. Both give testimony. both convict the world and reveals, discloses, proclaims. And it's the Spirit of truth, and Jesus himself is the truth. And of course, there's the Paraclete, or Jesus, in a sense, is the first Paraclete. But Jesus promises in our Bible word, he will send another Paraclete, another helper, another advocate. Let's read our Bible word again. And I will pray the Father, and he will give you another helper. In other words, another Paraclete. Jesus is the first Paraclete, that he may abide with you forever. Who is this Paraclete? The Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. Important also here is that Jesus will reveal himself to those who keep his commandments, those who keep his word, who are obedient to his teaching. If we go to verse 15, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right? Be obedient to Jesus' teaching. And then our Bible word comes in. It's about those who are obedient to Jesus. It's to these people that Jesus will manifest himself. He will come to them. And he will reveal himself to them. Because Jesus also promises, I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you. In a sense, Jesus is present through his resurrection, but also now Jesus is present through the Paraclete, or the Holy Spirit. And Jesus also promises that if I return to you, be it through his resurrection or the Paraclete, Jesus will give them life, resurrection life. That future life is already available in the present. Jesus says in verse 19, a little while longer and the world will see me no more, but you will see me. Because I live, you will live also. The spiritual life that Jesus will bring, resurrection life, is already available in the present. And again, it's about obedience to Jesus. If we go to verses 21, he says, he who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. Again, Jesus says, if you keep my commandments, if you love me, I will come to you. I will manifest myself to you. Something similar is said in verses 23. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make a home with him. So very important. Jesus will return. He will be present with his disciples, but it's about them being obedient, keeping his commandments. But part of the process also is that Jesus will send the Paraclete, the helper, to help them in this process of obedience. Because it's also important what Jesus says in verse 26. But the helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all things that I said to you. So, part and parcel of Jesus coming to his disciples, being present with his disciples, being it in his own person or to another helper, the other Paraclete that he will send, in other words, the Holy Spirit, it's part and parcel of this obedience. Jesus will only come to his disciples where there are these disciples who obey his word and keep his commandments. So just to repeat, recognize this John's theology that he refers to the Holy Spirit as the Paraclete, the helper or the advocate. And the role of the Paraclete is that he will mediate Jesus' presence. The Spirit, the Paraclete, it will be like as if Jesus himself is with his disciples. Also, the Paraclete will reveal the truth. It will be a teacher and will testify of Jesus. In other words, the Paraclete will remind them of Jesus' teaching. Then also, the Paraclete will be a prosecutor of the world. It's where the Paraclete will bring accusations because of their disobedience, their rejection of Jesus. So, take note of this role, this unique element of John's theology in the gospel, the role of the Holy Spirit as a paraclete. It's another paraclete. In other words, it's similar to Jesus. Someone similar to Jesus will be sent to his disciples to mediate his presence and to teach them.